Ladies, welcome back to Bernina Club 2016. For you new ladies, I demonstrate what I've been showing at Bernina Club every month and put it on the video for you, and you can watch it over and over and over again if you forget how to do something. So today I'm going to be teaching you to how to do wonderful neckline. That is the way I do my necklines, but the pattern I'm using is actually a wonderful pattern by an Australian designer, and the top is called the Bondi Top or Bondi Top, and very, very simple, very, very quick, made with 100% cotton fabrics. And I've done a variation of 2 or 3 here that are finished, including the one I'm wearing. But you can actually go on and look on the website, which is sewtogrow.com.au, which I'll put in your notes for you, that I email out to you. And it has size extra small, which is 33 to 34 inch bust, right up to XXL, which is 43 to 44 inch bust. So it's covering quite a wide variety. The reason why it's so quick is because this top has no extra sleeves in it. It's just one piece of fabric, and on the back it just has a simple back yoke with a little pleat in the back here, which is lovely and roomy for working, and I love it. So we're wearing these now as our uniform tops. And the first one I made was this one here, and I absolutely love it. And I made it and pretty much sold it within 5 minutes of making it. And this is a beautiful Amy Butler fabric. Oh no, sorry, Tula Pink fabric, this one. Tula Pink fabric, which I really, really love. And I love the colorway. The one thing I have done different than the pattern is I bring this color of my back facing right around my neckline, whereas in the pattern they use the front fabric around the front of the neckline, but I like the contrast. So I'm going to show you how to make this from start to finish today, which is very, very simple and quick. The other one I've made is my beautiful Kiwiana fabric up here. So the Kiwiana fabric is one of my favorites, and I've teamed it up with the other contrast Kiwiana fabric. So yeah, very, very nice. So this is a size large, and this is a size, no, sorry, this is a size medium, beg your pardon, and she's a size 16 girl, Betsy, here, and that's also a size 16, and this is, so that's the medium, and this is an extra small, okay? So I'm about a size 10, 11, whatever, so the extra small is all you need in this top. So this one I'm doing here, this one is a size small, and so this is the back facing. So remember that this is using as your sleeve as well, so it will look very long, but it's also your sleeve as well as your back. And you'll see that the neckline's quite low, so you can certainly trace up your neckline higher. So the first thing you're going to do once you've cut your fabric is you're going to fold your back neck facing and get your center back mark. So you can either do this with a pin or you can put a little nick. I'll put a pin in here so you can see it clearly. So there's my back neckline. Now when you trace out this pattern, and I'm using this beautiful, beautiful rose fabric, when you're tracing out the pattern, it gives you the little nick marks here for your tucks. So if I look closely, I think I can just see them, and I'll just make sure I've got my centre back marked properly. Yep, so there's my centre back. So these little tucks are going to go in towards my back centre. So it's very hard for you to see, but there's a little nick there, there's a nick there, and a nick there. And this is going folded into my back seam. So I just put nick to nick, and away I go. So I'm going to put another pin in here so you can see that nice and clearly. And then this one is going to go, got to think about this when I'm doing it upside down, this one's going into the center as well. So what you end up with is a tiny little pleat in the back center, and that gives you your room to move, should I say. And also you'll note there's no front dart, so it's nice and loose and cool to wear. So that's all you do to the back of your top. Now I'm just going to stitch across this to hold it for putting my back facing on. So it's nice and easy, beautiful, beautiful fabric. So I've got black thread on here, and I'm just going to make sure those are buttered up beautifully there, and I'll just run my foot along the edge. Now this pattern is a 1 centimetre seam. Put my feed dogs up, it'd be helpful. A 1 centimetre seam, but for stitching this part, I'm just putting my foot along the raw edge. Nice and easy. Make sure you just back stitch there just to hold it, and then you want to bring your foot up and clip those little bits of fabric, those little bits of thread, and just have everything nice and neat and tidy. So lay that down, and you've got your centre back marking now with your pin, like I said before. So there's your pin there, there's the centre back, and you just place centre back pin to your pleat. So it's going exactly down the middle where your pleat was. So I'll just open that up. So there's your pleat, and your pin is going right at the back there. So it's very, very, very simple. Now, on the Sew to Grow website, she does have tutorials, so you can go and have a look at those tutorials at any stage, and there's some very good tutorials on there. So it's nice to find someone that does some nice, clear tutorials as well. It's good. So make sure you pin across here. So these patterns are available for $31.50, and very, very happy with the response. We've had lots of ladies make the garments, which is wonderful. So there is my back ready to sew, and now I'm going to follow my 1 centimetre marking on my machine. I've got my stitch length on straight sewing and 2.5 length, so nice and easy. Once I've done that, I'll put my needle stop down. I'm going to overlock that seam, press it up, and top stitch it, and that's the only top stitching on the whole garment other than the hem. Take the pins out as you go, obviously, and make sure that your pleat is nice and together when you come to that little part. So I've just popped my hand underneath my facing here so that I can guide that and know that that's going to be nice and tidy underneath. So this is just a sample for work, but I don't think it'll last somehow. I think it will sell very fast because the fabric's stunning. So I'm just going to overlock it. Now when you're overlocking something like this, you don't actually need to do 4 threads, but if you've got 4 threads set up, that's fine, but really you're only neatening it, so a 3 thread overlock would do. Now if I turn it over this way, you can see the pleat. So there's my little pleat there, and I've stitched right across it. Okay, so now I'm going to overlock that. Bring my little foot there. So it's just neatening. It's no work. Run off and cut with your scissors, or you can bring your thread in front of your blade. Now when I press this, I'm going to press it up towards my facing. So I'm just going to, oh, that looks cute, that looks very cute. So I'm just going to press that up towards the facing. I really, really, really like that spotty fabric. I thought that might work together. You know, the hardest part is actually choosing the 2 fabrics and deciding what you want to put together. For this one, I chose my back fabric, and then when I put my binding on, did you see that? My back fabric, I was going too fast. And then when I put my binding on, the lady said I had to put the binding that I was using for this top on, so that was fine as well. So I'm just going to top stitch this. Now I can either use my edge stitch foot number 10 and put my needle position to the right, but I want a slightly wider top stitch. So I'm going to put my stitch length on 3, and when I do this, I'm going to run my foot along the edge of my work and just put my needle position a couple of clicks over, okay? Because it's slightly wider than I would be able to do with my edge stitch foot. And I'm just top stitching this down. So remember, needle stop down, And you'll notice how beautiful and quiet my machine is. I just gave it a drink. It's the biggest thing about machines that I can tell people: clean, oil your machine all the time. They get very, very, very thirsty with the amount of sewing that we do, and also the heat. If you've got a very, very warm room, and if you're doing quilts using wadding, the wadding sucks up the oil. So make sure that you're always keeping your machine well oiled. We need water, our machine needs oil. Okay? Now, I'm going to just sew my shoulder seams now, and then I'm going to show you how to do the neck binding. So very, very simple. There's your top, here's your front, and you just put shoulder seam to shoulder seam, and I will be good, I'll pin it. I wouldn't probably at home. Cotton fabric doesn't really move. It's very, very good. It doesn't go moving all over the place. So just put your raw edges together. I'm not going to be top stitching this one, but I am just going to be pressing it. So it's just stitch, overlock and press, and then we're ready to show you the neck binding. Now I'll show you how I cut my bias for round the neck, and I must say, if you've never ever sewn a neck binding using your own fabric to make your binding, after this class I really hope you'll change your mind, because it's really, really easy. So when you've top stitched, make sure you push clear, put your machine back to straight sewing, and now I'm going to do my 1 centimetre seam, and everything's back to the way it should be. Centre needle position, 2 to 2.5 length, whatever you like. I have my machine is set on 2 because it's preset. So I'm just using my Classroom 380 today. Lovely little machine, but I do miss a couple of things. I miss my foot control can tap for my needle to go up, so I have to go like that, but normally I just use my neck control. So just make sure you cut from there to there. If your cutters aren't working, I'll get you to have a look here. On the side of the machines, you have a built-in cutter. If it's not working, just get your nail underneath, pull your cutter out, just very gently, like that, and clean inside your cutter. Just get a brush, clean out all the threads. Mine's clean because I cleaned it. And then these little lugs, squeeze just enough to put them back. So you just put it in. I put one lug in, and then I squeeze the other lug, and then I push it back in. I was like, whoops. So that's all you have to do to clean it. So you just pull it out with your nail gently, and then clean it and put it back in. Okay? Really good thing to do, because if you've never done it, you'll be amazed. Your threads will start cutting again, because it's something you wouldn't think to do, because you wouldn't know possibly to do it. It's a good idea to clean it. It's amazing, amazing the difference it makes. So there we go, and cut, and then overlock. So I'm going to overlock both of these at the same time. So when you're doing that, you just overlock the first one, like so. Don't stop, just bring the other one closer and overlock. Now, if you were doing this on a sewing machine, you would use your overlock stitch number 3, normally 3 or 4 on your machine, and foot number 2. And you just do a single overlock on that. So now, here's my top, there's my back, and there's my front. And I'm just going to press those seams towards my front. Am I? Yes, I am. They sit naturally towards the front, so that's how I'm going to press them. So now I'm going to show you how to make your binding and my method of sewing it on. I don't know if anyone else does this, but this is my method. So there's my top all ready for my binding. Now we're going to pop over here so you can see how to do a binding. So if you've just got a piece of fabric like this and you want to make a binding, the first thing you do is you need to fold it so you get a bias strip. Okay, so I've folded it. I'll go like this so you can actually see, and I want a bias strip because I've got spots. I may have may make it even easier, or it may not. So I'm just going to leave that little piece there and make sure I've got a nice long bias strip. The more fabric they have, the easier. So I'll do it from this way to show you. So I'll just lay this down so it's nice and tidy. Now, so I'm using a cutter and a ruler. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off that edge. Now, I'm not going to follow the dots because I am just going to do it where it naturally falls. So I'm just going to cut off there, and I'm going to come around the table because it'll be easier for me. Now, I cut my neck bindings 1.5 inches. So I know that you're going to go, why aren't you in centimetres? Well, all things like this are always in inches. So mine is 1.5 inches. I lay my 1.5 mark along my cut edge, and I'm cutting over here, which will give me a 1.5 inch strip. Okay, and I'll have 2 of them because I've got fabric underneath. So I'm going to cut it along the, let's do that again. I'm going to cut it along there. That would have been very interesting. And I have got 2 pieces of fabric. Whoops, there they are there. Okay. Now, when you're joining fabrics like this, because you may not have these beautiful ends here, all you do, and I'll put it on the table so you can see it, and I'll put it up this way so you can see it, is you're going to put right side to right side, so you've got a 90-degree angle like that. Okay. Then what you're going to do is you're going to draw. I'm just going to go and get a pencil so I can show you. And you're going to draw a mark from this point here to this point here. So this is going to be your stitching line. So it goes diagonally across here, and I'll do it quite dark so you can see it, because otherwise it would be impossible. And I'm going to put a pin in that, not a bent pin. Put a pin in that, and then I'll lift it up to show you so you can really see what I mean. Gosh, it's quite hard doing it backwards. Okay, so there's my diagonal there. I'm going to be stitching across here because I want this to fold back and be one piece of fabric. And if you've never done this, when you've cut the bias, it's got so much stretch. It's absolutely brilliant. So again, you're stitching across here, and I make it so I've got one big long piece, so it'll do my sleeves and my neckband. Okay, so I'm going to stitch that now just with a straight stitch. And then I'll show you my method, and you can try it out and see what you think. So just put your foot down there. You don't really need to back stitch this because you're going to be double stitching it, but you just do want to sew from point A to point B there. Now, once you've stitched that, I hope you can see that there. Okay, once you've stitched that, you're going to trim back 1/4 inch or 6 mils, whichever you want to work in. So you've got a nice tidy seam. And this is the one time I'll tell you you can iron those seams open. Okay, so we're going to press that seam open. I would not normally tell you to do this, but we are on this instant. Press that seam open. Then we're going to press our neckband in half with the wrong sides together. Okay, we'll just move that. So we're just going to fold and put our raw edges together. And we're going to press that neckband in half. You do not want steam. Why has that gone on to steam? I don't want steam. Okay, we'll get rid of the steam. We don't want steam, because we don't want it to stretch our neckband. So we just want it dry heat. Still steaming. Why? Oh, someone's put it on steam. That's why. We do have a lot of people use our classroom things, so you need to reset them back to suit you. Okay, so don't have steam because it might stretch your neckband. And I'll just make sure that I've made plenty to cover my whole neck. And it's quite hot. So I'm just going to go like that, get my neckband, and make sure that I've got plenty to make that neckband. Oh, I reckon we'll fit it in. Shall I check properly? Put your shoulder seams together. like this and put a pin in the center back here. Like that. And then put a pin in the center front. Like that. And I'm just going to lay it down here and make sure I absolutely have enough neck binding for that piece, or I'll make another piece. Okay, so I've got it in half. Yes, I've got plenty. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is my method. This is just what I do, and I made it up because I just make up whatever I like. I don't read patterns. Is I'm going to start sewing and actually stop sewing about 1.5 inches away from my back neck, and I'm going to sew from the wrong side and top stitch on the right side. Okay, so I'm just going to leave my fabric here to join, and I'm going to start sewing from this side. And I'm going to show you one method today, and it's a cheaty method, and then next month I'm going to show you another method of finishing a back neckline. So this is just one method that you can do. Now, because it's a big neck, I can leave my sew table on. You may need to take it off, but on this one I can leave it on. So I'm going to start by putting my needle on straight stitch first, to length, and my needle position as far right as it can go. Okay, so I'm using the ordinary foot, no fancy foot at all. So it's a very, very narrow seam. It's probably about a 5mm seam. Okay, so that's about what I'm doing, about a 5mm seam. So I don't need a 1/4 inch. Oh, you could, I should tell you, you could pin this if you like. I should pin it to show you. So you put your pins with the heads facing out, and you're not stretching it at all, you're just laying it nice and flat with all your raw edges. So now you've got, gosh, there's some blunt pins sometimes. You've got 3 edges, raw edges together. Don't use your pins if they're blunt because they can pull your fabric. So make sure you stop before you get to a pin. See, I'm trying to be good and use pins. Doesn't happen often. I find with this cotton fabric you really don't need to, but please feel free to. It'll be quicker if I don't use pins, put it that way, for you. Okay, because I've got the needle stopped down, it's very, very good. I can see exactly where I'm going and what I'm doing. And it stops exactly where I want it to stop, and there's no problem. So as you can see, I'm taking the binding all the way around the neckline, whereas they actually don't do that on the pattern. But it's a personal choice. I like the idea of having the matching binding. I think it ties in the sleeve and it ties in the back. So for this binding method, I'm actually going to be straight stitching the back neckline. But next month I'll show you another method of doing it, because some ladies don't like to do that. Absolutely personal preference. But it's quite fun, isn't it, to be able to make a top so fast. Okay. And needle up and cut there. Now, this is what we're going to show you really, really slowly and clearly. When you're ready to join it, I'll just get rid of the thread so you've got nothing blocking your view. When you're ready to join this, you're going to see you've got your back pin. You're going to open up this binding, and you're going to put a pin exactly where you need to join through one layer of your binding. See that nice and clearly? So one layer of the binding, I've put a pin to mark it, and I'm just going to put the pin right through there. I'm going to, when I've done the other side, straight stitch through here. So that's my mark. Here's my other end. So get that one out of the road. Here's my other end. Open up so you've got one piece of binding. Mark it with your finger first so you can see what you're doing. Here it is here. And put a pin through exactly where that's going to meet. Because what you want to do is you want these to join so that you have no mess. Okay? So I've put a pin through this way, very crookedly, and a pin through this one. Okay, so here's one end, here's the other end. Now I just get both those pieces of binding and I open them out and put pin to pin. Make sure everything's flat, so that's why you want to not be any closer than 1.5 inches. And you're going to put that pin all the way from there all the way up to here, and that is where you are going to stitch. So it's a very quick and easy way of doing a neck binding. Take that pin out, and before you stitch, check it fits. Don't start sewing and then go, oh my gosh, it doesn't fit. So check it fits before you stitch it. So get rid of your top, and you're just sewing these two pieces of binding together, okay? Well, you're not there to say yes or no, are you? But you'll be saying at home, oh yes, I get that. I'm hoping you'll be saying I get that. So make sure it's on center needle position this time. So push the clear button, because that would be disastrous. And then you're going to stitch from the top down, making sure everything's nice and flat. So always check you've put it back to clear. Okay? Now to top stitch the binding, I use the number 10 foot, and it's foolproof because I'm working on the right side. You do want it to be nice and straight. And I do back stitch this part because it's my back neck. So I'm going to cut my thread there, and I'm going to cut my thread there. Before I cut off all my excess, I'm going to open it and make sure it fits, which it does. So now I'm just going to open up my back seam, trim off my excess, and I'm going to finger press this open. I'm not going to go to the iron. I'm just going to open up that seam and finger press it open, and then put my wrong sides back together. And see, now I can just stitch right across from there to there where I haven't sewn. So I'm just going to quickly do that now. Then we're going to stop for a quick break, and you can get a cup of tea, and I'll show you how to top stitch. So first of all, remember to put your needle position to the right, needle down, come across to here, and you've finished your top, needle up, and cut your threads. Now, while you're having a break, I am going to be trimming this neckband back a half of what I've just stitched. So this is just my method of doing it. So I'm going to trim this neckband back to a half before I show you the next piece. Okay? So there we go. So I've trimmed it back about half. So while you're having a break there, I'm going to carry on trimming that back, and I'll see you shortly.